Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of In the Spotlight. I'm Mike Kenichi. Of course, that music you're hearing right there, it's a tremendous children's book that's been out for over 10 years. It's called The Adventures of Charlie Bubbles, and we're here to talk about it today with the author of those books that are so well done, so written well. He's been an actor, he's been a writer, producer, director, and as I mentioned, an author. You remember him from such shows as Knots Landing, Murder She Wrote, NYPD Blue. Who could forget the movie, All the Right Moves? The one and only Paul Carafotes. And Paul, I want to thank you for coming on today. It's a real honor for me.
Thanks, Mike. Good to be. I'm glad to be here.
So,
Wherever
Paul,
this is. Where are you, Mike? I don't even know where you
I'm
are. You're
in
in Ohio,
I'm in Derby, Connecticut. So,
Connecticut. Well,
yeah,
I grew up in Boston, so not too far up the road.
yeah. I figured when I saw the background, you were a Red Sox fan. So I'm a Yankees fan, but
Oh, this is not going to work out, Mike.
but anyway, Paul, I figure since you are a Red Sox fan, before we begin, let me ask.
We have a book, from the Charlie Bubbles series. It's called the Charlie Bubbles Storybook Series, by the way. The Adventures of Charlie Bubbles was the first book written as a tribute to my son.
Yeah.
And he was just a baby. But the third book in the series, now we have 8 of them now, is Charlie Bubbles to Fenway. And it's if you get that book, you Yankee fans, it's all about the Red Sox and Yankees from about 2007.
So,
It's got
Paul,
Big Poppy and
yep.
It's got Dustin Pedroia and also one of our traders. You know who that is. I won't mention any names. He played center field.
Yeah, it's funny, but I wanted to ask you, since I know you're a Red Sox fan, before we talk about your career, what is your opinion of the state of the Red Sox? Because a lot of Red Sox fans I've been talking to lately are very upset with ownership. They feel like they're sending the team backwards. What do you feel?
I think the ownership is fakakta. I don't know what's going on. They won the 4 championships, which is the most in this century, but they've kind of dropped the ball. I don't know what's going on there. They're not spending money. They got plenty of money. They're trying to cut. It seems to me that they're, just sort of the glass is half empty, and they're not trying to fill it. They're just keeping it sort of at a place where, let's see, they say they're rebuilding the farm system. Are they? I mean, I don't know. I mean, we need pitching. There's a lot of holes in that lineup. To tell you the truth, I think they've just given up over there. I think they might want to sell the team. I think that's what's coming. I mean, I think that that could be in the next year or two. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know, but they have all that property. I don't know if you've ever been to Fenway. I mean, they don't want to tear the ballpark down and build a stadium for 45 like Yankee Stadium or something. They still have like 35,000. I think they get up to 38 maybe on a standing room only there, but they've bought all that property around the ballpark. So Lansdowne Street, where I used to party as a kid and go to clubs and Club Lansdowne and all that, that's all now owned by them. That's the group. What's his name? I can't remember now. It escapes me, but they own everything. So I think, they don't care, because what really is happening at Fenway now is that all the out of town teams that come, they're selling tickets because it's historical. Fenway's a historical place. It's been there for over 100 years. All that. It's got a lot of history. It's there's a lot of little mysteries about that park, and they've got a lot to sell there. So, any team coming in, they get lots of people from that. If the Yankees come in, there's a lot of Yankee fans. If the Dodgers come in, there's a lot of Dodger. They're selling a lot of tickets, so they don't seem to be too concerned with guys like me and my son, who grew up in California, but is crazy Red Sox. In fact, I just re-upped my subscription to MLB because I get to watch the games. And last year I didn't watch very many, and I didn't want to do it, but my son said, "Yeah, let's get it." And I was really, this is like 2 years now. I'm going 2-3 years going. I'm not so sure that I want to watch, because it's just terrible product. It's horrible. So that's my opinion. Although, if conversely, you got the Yankees who are spending all kinds of money, get all these guys, and they can't get there. So what's the answer?
Yeah, that's very true. And Paul, I want to talk about something, happier times as a Red Sox fan, and it pains.
Okay, let's talk about that.
It pains me to bring it up, but it is the 20th anniversary. So talk to me about where you were Game 7. You talked about a trader, but that trader hit a big grand slam for you against the Yankees.
Not Johnny Damon, because when I wrote the first book, it was in 2004. It wasn't what's his name that played center field, not before Johnny Damon. We got Johnny Damon to I think we replaced him 2002 maybe, or 2000.
Oh,
Jacoby, you're still paying him. Jacoby Ellsberg or Ellsworthy or whatever his name was. Charlie, what was the guy who played center field that's in our Charlie Bubbles to Fenway book that was a traitor? Ellsbury.
Right.
My kid.
Damon ironically hit that grand slam in Game 7, and they're down 3-0. They come back. They win 4-3. Just talk to me about what.
All right. Well, that's game 3. I was with my son's mom at a place in Santa Monica on 26th Street, where I used to go watch all the games, and we got bombed out. I think that the Yankees won 19-7 or 3 or whatever it was, and I just can remember so depressing getting in the car and driving back to downtown Los Angeles, where I was living in Koreatown, and I was working on a television show, CSI New York, in fact.
Yeah.
So when that happened, I left my house to go shoot. We were shooting in Hollywood, in an alleyway off of Hollywood Boulevard and Vine. And we were shooting a scene, and I would leave in between the takes and just go up the alley, and there was a bar, and they were playing the game. The game, it was just packed with people, and I was shocked in this to know that everybody in there was cheering for the Red Sox. They wanted the Red Sox to finally beat the Yankees, So I'd go back and forth, and at the very end, when we finally won, I was like floodgates open emotionally for me. It was like to me, I didn't care if we won the World Series. The fact that we came back and we beat the Yankees, that was enough for me. But I was glad that we did win the World Series. But I was went back into the bar when, we finally won, and they were celebrating, and there were 2 people wearing Yankee caps, a guy and a girl, sitting near the end of the bar, and they were crying. And I walked up to them, and I tapped the guy on the shoulder, and he turned around, he's looking at me, and I said, I know exactly how you feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where I was when that happened. It was quite a time. I got phone calls from all my buddies in Hollywood, everybody that knows I'm a, diehard Red Sox fan and all that. And that was really great. I was sorry to see that my father missed that. He did not see that. He had passed away some years earlier, and he was always let down by the Sox. They always lost 7th games, all that, the history.
Yeah.
And but I was very happy. 2004. My son was born in 2007, and they won again in 2007. So I took that as it was very good luck. And he is right at the moment, stands about 6'1". He's batting 4th for his high school team. He's playing for CV Crescenta Valley Falcons, and he's on the varsity. He's been on the varsity for a couple of years. He's a junior, and he's crushing it. So, maybe he'll get to play for the Red Sox. He said, I said, look, if the Yankees come calling, you sign that contract. Go to the Yankees. Don't worry about it.
But, I wish him well, but we're going to talk about him after as well, because he plays a big part in these children's books. But Paul, I wanted to ask you, how did the love start for you with acting? Because your first big film was when you were like 20 or 21 years old. I think it was Headin for Broadway. But how did your love for acting begin?
Well, my mom was a music teacher, and my father was a bartender who was very theatrical. My mother was always involved in, the church choir. She was the choir director. She taught high school music appreciation to the kids and choral. And there was always plays. There was 6 of us. There was lots of children. There were 8 of us in the house, 6 kids. So, there was always something going on. We were trying to, like the Beatles. For instance, I was 4 when they hit on the Ed Sullivan Show, and soon after that, I got my little kids in the neighborhood, and we were tennis rackets and singing. Would hide the record player, and the girls in the neighborhood would come and scream. We'd charge like a penny to get in. and they chase us after up the, up the street. It was so it really started with the Beatles and my family. But Mean Streets, when the movie Mean Streets came out, I think I was I don't remember what year it was, but I was either a junior in high school, and it was the first time I left the movie theater thinking that, yeah, I'd like to, I was going, like imitating De Niro, and I thought this might be a cool job. I was always doing plays in school and stuff, but it was my sisters were always dragging me. My sister Sophia, my older sister, would get me out of bed to go audition for this or go try out for that, or and the very first play I did in school was junior high school, and I snuck into the theater and stayed in the back and was kind of giggling and making fun of the people on stage because they looked like fools to me. They couldn't find left center stage, back center stage, right stage, left stage. I was watching what was going on. And finally, I mean, I guess I was getting a little too obnoxious back there, and the drama teacher turned on me and said, you there, you big mouth, get up there on stage. And I got up on stage, and I ended up with the lead in the play. So that's where it sort of began. Mrs. Ferrara was the teacher, I believe, that did that play. I was in the 8th grade, and stepping on stage, it was 500 kids in the junior high school. And the first thing I said, I got a big laugh. It was intoxicating. It was, I thought, wow, I got a buzz from this. And I played a lot of sports. I was a very good baseball player, hockey player. But the girls seemed to really, I didn't have to be the captain of the football team to get the girls once I stepped on stage. So that was a big proponent of it. It was the girls. So, yeah. And then I did a high school production of Sugar. I got the lead in that, and a couple of things converged at the same time. Somebody from MIT came and watched the production of the show that we did, which was Some Like It Hot, is the musical version of that. And he hired me. He actually paid me to be in he shot a short film thesis for his graduation, whatever it was. And he hired me to play the lead in that. And my mother was like the music. It's like a long time ago now. My brain is going soft, but the dance instructor, the choreographer for the play, he came up to me and he said, "Look, you're good looking. You got talent. You should go to New York to be an actor. You should try it. You should just go and see if you can try it." So I was working in the summer program for the city, and my old girlfriend's sister's boyfriend, who I only met once or twice, came by the park, Cross Park, where I was working, and said, "Hey, Carafotes, you want to go to New York this weekend?" It was a Friday. And I said, "Yeah." And I went to my boss and said, "Hey, I got to get out of here, get to the bank. I'm going to go to New York." He said, "I don't care what you do, just as long as you're back here 8 o'clock Monday morning." So I went to the bank. I took money out, took about $300, and I had one address in New York of friends of my family. It was a Greek family called the Chakalis, family. And I went to New York with this kid, and I signed up for HB Studios acting school. I got a job. And the last stop was this family out in Queens. And I knocked on the door, and Madge Chakalis opened the door, and she said, she saw me standing there, and she said, "I always knew you were coming here." And so I said, "Oh, I'm glad you said that, because I need a place to stay. I'm happy to pay. I've been working. I got money. I just got a job. I'm going to move here in about 3 weeks." So it was like in August, and I started school in September. So it was like 3 weeks. My family didn't know I was in New York doing any of this. Nobody knew I was gone. She said yes. The family took me in. I slept on the floor. I paid them rent. I went back to Boston. And they didn't even know I was gone. Like I snuck into down. I was living in the basement, and I came up the back stairs and I opened the back door. My father was reading the newspaper and goes, "Hey, there he is. There's my son. What do you want for breakfast?" No clue. I disappeared for 3 days. Nobody knew I was gone. And I then told my mother, that night, I just sat on the front porch. I had my guitar. I was strumming my guitar, and she said, "What are you going to do with your life? What are you going to do with your life?" I said, "I'm not going to college." I didn't like school. So I said, Mom, I'm going to go to New York and be an actor. And she looked at me and she said, really? When is that going to happen? I said, actually, 3 weeks. I'm moving in with the Chaklis family. I got a job and I'm going to school. Is that you flashing that on screen?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
So I got the ring thing on. So I'm getting, like you sent a message to me. So anyway, so that's what happened. And 3 weeks later, I moved to Queens, Glen Oaks, Queens, New York. I live with this family, very gracious of them to take me in. And I stayed there for 4 months. I came back for Christmas, and then I moved into Manhattan, in New York City. And that was like I guess maybe January, February of 1978, because I moved in with them 77. So that was September of 77. And in 79, I got my first starring role in a movie called Headin for Broadway, which, folks, you can see on YouTube. You can look it up on YouTube. Headin for Broadway. It'll make you sing. It'll make you dance. It's a really sweet little movie about 4 young people that want to make it on Broadway.
And
my
Paul,
character was Ralph Morelli.
right.
So
And Paul, your
I played a
character.
kid from Philly.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Rocky. I was an homage to Rocky, who later I met when Stallone. He had seen the movie, and he had me for Thanksgiving dinner, and he really liked the movie Headed for Broadway, and he kept saying, "Hey, Paulie, you wore the hat, you did you doing a thing on me. It was great." Oh, and I said, "Well, I'm glad you liked it. What can I say?"
And Paul, you got great reviews for that. I mean, critics, you know how critics could be, but they really praised your performance as Ralph Morelli. So your first big gig, and I know you're not paying attention to that too much because you got to keep working. You can't worry about reading the paper and seeing how they're critiquing you and the film. But to have that at 20 years old and to know your first big film, you got good reviews. I mean, it had to be a good feeling to know that you got that first movie, you know, there and you were successful with it.
Well, I'll tell you what, it was really, really, looking back now, is quite an amazing how did I get here scenario. Like, I left Somerville, Mass, was where I grew up, just outside of Boston. And I was just out of high school. So I was 18 when I got to New York, and I was 20. I got that movie June, when I had turned 20 in March. So it was really 18 months removed from high school. I just went on a whim, like, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to be an actor. And, my mother let me go only because she thought like I'd be homesick and be back in 6 weeks. You know what I mean? I've never been back. 45 years. but that was it was almost surreal. I don't know if you can, I remember they released the movie in 10 cities to begin with. So Boston, my hometown, was one city, and Toronto and Las Vegas and Seattle and Houston and a bunch of cities around the country. And when those reviews came out, I was flying back from Seattle. I'd just done Good Morning Seattle, and I was trying to make it to Boston for the premiere because my family, all my friends had come in from, my cousin, my whole family was going, and I wanted to just sneak. I didn't want anybody to know I was there. I wanted to just kind of sneak into the theater and sort of see their reaction to, like, bang, I'm on, my family didn't know. My baby sister had visited, my mom had come, but they didn't know to what extent I was in this movie. I try to get in fact, there's a little clip of my baby sister at the time in one of the scenes. She's in like the audition sequence. She's with a group of people and she's just in that little sequence. And she's actually in the movie, which is kind of a sweet thing to have. But I did not, it was, I can't really explain it. Like, it was like this feeling comes over you. Like, they released it in those 10 cities, and then they decided, because like you said, all the reviews, I got all these reviews. So I'm flying back to Boston, trying to make it to the premiere. And on the plane, everybody's got the Seattle Times or the Boston Globe. And there's full page color ads of Heading for Broadway. Right. And the reviews, Carafotes is amazing. And it was just, you're just in this, like, I don't know, it's an out of body experience. Like, you're not really, is this really happening? You're buzzy, you're feeling like wow, I'm looking at the plane and I'm looking at all the newspapers like lined up like street lights, green lights. That's what it said to me. They're all people holding the newspaper, and I wish I'd gotten a photograph of it. But what happened was the controller strike hit on my flight back to Boston,
Oh,
May 23rd, 1980. Okay. So they had to land the plane in Chicago. Then they flew us to Milwaukee. And I'm looking at my clock going, I can still make it. I can still make it. Well, I never made it. I got to Boston at 11:30. There was no car to pick me up. They lost my luggage. I mean, I went from like this elation on the plane, and then I just reality like, oh shit, you're just another schmo. And I had to take a cab. I called my house, called home. There was a big party, big celebration, block party happening. They had all seen the movie, and everybody was just getting drunk and having a good time. And I remember that specifically, the cab ride back to my childhood house where I grew up, and there was just people everywhere. And my mom was up on the porch, and my dad was, half in the bag, and he was pushing everybody out of the way, saying, "Get away from me! My son's a movie star!" And he came and he gave me a hug, and it was a very emotional moment. And I just I didn't want to have that moment right there with my dad because everybody was around us. I wanted to just sort of have a private moment with my family that this had happened to all of us, not just me. I mean, they were a part of that too because I grew, my family. I loved them, and they were rooting for me. And this has happened to one of their own, and it was a beautiful thing. And then I got back to Los Angeles, and I was summoned to the 20th Century Fox, the vice president of marketing, and they had wheeled in these new posters because the original poster that everybody's got is the four of us on the poster. And now because of the reviews had come out, they kind of singled me out, and very graciously, I was like, like I said, it's just a weird sensation. You're sitting there with the vice president, and Sherry Lansing, who was the president of Fox at the time, had come in to congratulate me and shake my hand, and we're so glad that you're here with us at Fox. And I should have said to them right then and there, okay, what about a 3-picture deal? I wasn't, I was just still in this glow of what was happening. I couldn't believe it. I didn't even ask for the one sheet. I should have asked for the one sheet with there's just a shot of me dancing like in a pose and all the reviews going across. And it was it was like I said, it was overwhelming. I couldn't believe that my dream was actually being realized and it was happening. And it was surreal to me. Whereas I wished I was a little bit more business minded, and instead of being in this sort of aftermath glow of like, oh my God, this is happening. Is it really happening? Pinch me. Is it, I should have been a little bit more sort of aware. But how could you be? Who prepares you for that? How many people leave and say, I'm gonna go do this and do it.
yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't have any relatives. There's no family connections. There was nobody. I mean, the family connection were the people that let me sleep on the floor in the bedroom of their sons when I first went to New York for 4 months. That was it. You know what I mean? So this came to happen just out of kismet, just for, very fortuitous decisions I made early on in New York that got me there into that movie. And then, sort of kicked off my career.
Right. And, it's funny, Paul, because there would be more surreal moments. And I mentioned it earlier, All the Right Moves. And at the time, Tom Cruise, he was still, he was on his way, but he hadn't become the big star he was.
Yeah, he had just finished Risky Business.
Yeah.
There was a definite difference between Tom pre-Risky Business and after Risky Business because we were shooting All the Right Moves, and he had to go back to do some pickups or like maybe a reshoot. So he was gone for like 5 days or something in the middle of shooting All the Right Moves. And
yeah, and
he when he came back, he knew because he had seen the movie, obviously, and the movie was great. I mean, Risky Business was a great movie, there's no doubt.
Yeah, but the thing of it is, one actor that you got to work with in that movie who had established himself and was a big time actor, and he continued to be and still is to this day, is Craig T. Nelson. And
Craig,
to be able to work with Craig and be in a movie like that, it was so popular and so enjoyable. and you're working, like I said, it was early in Tom Cruise's career, but Craig T. Nelson, like I said, when you get to work with somebody like that who had all those credentials and all those credits to his resume, it had to be unbelievable to get an opportunity.
Well, Craig wanted to take over the movie. Like, he was trying to run, he was trying to get us to like not abandon ship, but mutiny. He was looking to mutiny all the actors. Yeah, at that time, Craig liked to have a few pops, a few beers. He's been sober a long time now, but at that time I'm sober as well. I mean, it's like at that time we were all sort of young men of Hollywood, or what you're supposed to do when you're young. You hit the town and you hit it.
Yeah.
But Craig was always trying to get us, like, he didn't want me to fumble the ball. He was saying, yeah, Vooch, you don't have to fumble. I said, what are you talking about? He goes, no, take it and run it for a touchdown. And I was like, did you read the script? It doesn't say anything about Vooch runs for a touchdown. It says he fumbles the ball. He goes, don't listen to that. Just take it and run. It's like, when I look at my check, it doesn't say Craig T. Nelson. Charlie, come on in and say hello.
Yeah.
I might want to bring Charlie in here now.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, because in the pictures I saw of him, he was maybe 5 or 6 years old. So.
Oh yeah, he's on 5 or 6. He's 6'1" now.
Yeah.
16. Say hello to Mike.
Charlie, nice to meet you.
It's Charlie.
Nice to meet you, Charlie. I'm Mike.
Yeah, I don't think he can't hear me. He can't hear you because I got the headset on.
Oh, okay, I see. But
I can give him one of these though. Hold on. Here, stick that in. You know how to do it.
Wow, he is tall, man. Wow.
Yeah, he's big. This is what they say to me now. They go like, where did he come from? Because you're so little. I said, what do you mean? I'm 5'9". I'm fantastic.
Right. How you doing?
I'm just not 6'1".
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Nice
Yankee fan.
Best of luck with your baseball season. I hear you're a pretty great player, and I wish you the best of luck this season.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely.
You want any questions about Charlie Bubbles? He's Charlie.
Charlie, I might as well bring it up since I have you and Dad on here. But the story I always heard was when you were a little baby, you would be laying on Dad's chest and he would be blowing these bubbles. And that was really the first time that he saw you get a little fired up. And that's how the inspiration begins. So just you were a baby then, but just talk about this great book that your dad has wrote and how you're really the inspiration for it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really remember much about the blowing of the bubbles, but even whenever I see like bubbles in the street, the kids like blow the bubbles, it's like, oh, that's cool. That's how my dad got the inspiration behind it. But except he actually made the bubbles with his mouth, and so it's cool being the inspiration behind something.
Your book.
Yeah.
So
talk about that.
Talk about your book, Charlie, because you're a young kid and you got this opportunity to do this. Talk about doing this book.
He's also in a movie with me, just so if you something else you want to talk about. But go ahead, tell him about your book.
Well, over the COVID quarantine, I just wrote a little book about our new dog that we had just gotten over the quarantine. I didn't really know how to write without using rhyming, because I felt that it didn't flow quite as well. So I just rhymed every single sentence, and I thought that was really cool. My dad helped me revise it after, and it came out
pretty well. Yeah, good.
Yeah, and you were probably only 11 years old then. So
no, I was 14.
14.
He was 14 when he wrote it.
Okay.
Yeah, when he started it, I mean, it was a little bit of a process. I mean, the thing about it, the two of us, I mean, when we set our minds to doing something, it gets done. And he actually, came up with that pretty quickly. It took us a little time to massage it and get it to work on it, but he's the whole reason. I mean, the Charlie Bubbles Cares for Kids as well as a nonprofit that we started, and it was Charlie who would give the books to the kids, and that gave me the idea to just, why don't we start something we can raise some money and just give books away, and that's what we do. Even the books we sell at Amazon, we don't take a penny, not one penny. All that, any royalty from any of the books, and we have 8 of them up there, folks, and also the music, Sing with Charlie Bubbles. Don't forget about that. You can all that goes into the Charlie Bubbles Cares for Kid Foundation, and we buy books and give them away to homeless kids. We give them to preschoolers, newborns, kids in hospitals. What do you got going up there? You got something happening.
Yeah, that's
Charlie
one
Bubbles.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. It doesn't fit in the the ratio is the wrong ratio. You can't see the whole strip.
Right. So, but let me ask you, Paul, I'd be willing to bet, and I don't want to speak for you, but I would almost be certain that because you've been able to do this project, you've gotten to work with it with your son, that this is probably the proudest thing you've done in your career. And that says a lot because you've had so much success as an actor and a writer.
Well, this is the proudest thing I have right here.
Well, that's understandable.
The rest of it is all just, it's just, born out of a restless, creative mind, irritable, restless, and discontent. The actual, Charlie is really was all I was trying to get to. My everything I've done up until the birth of Charlie was just trying to get there. You know what I mean? It was just stuff to do in between. I got fortunate in a lot of ways. I got lucky in a lot of ways. I got stuff I shouldn't have gotten. I got stuff I wanted I didn't get. That's just life, people. That's what happens,
So Charlie,
but he was it basically.
So Charlie, let me ask you this. Dad and I joked about this early in the interview, but if the day ever came and you had to sign a contract with the Yankees, are you putting the interlocking NY?
I definitely would.
Think about what you're going to say.
I would for sure, because it's an opportunity to play for an awesome organization, but also it's like, but I would love to play. I mean, at Yankee Stadium, it's historic. I mean,
and then is baseball your favorite sport, or?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure, my favorite.
Right.
And also, you get to play at Fenway Park 30 times a year, or however many times a year. So that's probably the best part of playing with the Yankees is to play at Fenway Park.
I think it's 19, isn't it? They trimmed it down.
I think it's back to 12 now, but it's still a good amount. Yeah. Once they decided to play interleague games every day, they had to revise the schedules. And I think 12 is perfect because I think sometimes 19 is just too much.
It's too much. It is. It's but it was exciting back in the early 2000s.
Well, you know what it is? It's not really a rivalry anymore. These guys are all friends with each other.
I know. It doesn't bother you? It drives me crazy. They're out there talking and shaking hands. I mean, I grew up in the era that they're your enemy. I'm not friends with those guys. Maybe after the season, but not when games are going.
Those teams in the early 2000s, they respected each other, but they hated the uniforms. I mean, they hated each other, and that's why it was such a great rivalry. Like Pedro Martinez hated the
it was so great to watch him blow those guys out.
Yeah, but that's really what it was about. And I don't think you have that anymore in almost every sport. I feel like, look at football. I watched one game, the Giants got hammered by somebody. And these guys are all like being buddies after the game. Like you just got beat by 4 touchdowns and you're celebrating.
Yeah, I know. What are you doing? Yeah. That's like you lost. You should feel the loss, not this. Yeah. Well, that's a millionaires club now, It's their entitlements. They have all these things that, that the guys before them really paved the way. But I think there's too much money. There's too much money in all of it. It's just crazy. So that changes. Look, I mean, I agree. He's been playing baseball since he was swinging a bat since he was 18 months old. So, I wrote a pilot, a baseball pilot about the people in these communities that are so crazy about baseball, like a comedy. And they always talk about it's about for the kids. It's for the kids, but it's not. The adults it's their ego. It's all their baloney and their madness that they bring into that. And it really ruins it for the kids as far as I'm concerned. But it's funny and it's an odd thing, but I've never really seen it in much other sports, other than baseball. But everybody I talk to that plays basketball, so what are you doing? You gotta go? What are you gonna do?
Gotta get my oil.
He's gotta go get his oil changed. Well, say goodbye to everybody.
Charlie,
appreciate
before you go, as the season moves on this year, I'd love to have you on and talk about your season. So if you want to come on at some point, let me know and we'll definitely do it.
Right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Nice meeting you and best
nice meeting you too.
Take care, buddy.
Thank you. You too.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Love you, kid.
Love you too.
All right. Is this it or are you coming back? All right. He's gonna be back, folks.
Very nice kid, Paul. He really is. He's sounds like very respectful, and
He's
again,
he's very, very good. I don't know how it happened coming from me, but it did. Maybe it was all those. Maybe it was all those years of searching for who I am and what am I until he came along, and then I suddenly knew I was a dad. I was somebody's dad, and it changed my whole perspective of life.
right.
And it's what I have a friend of mine in New York I met when I first went to New York, and I lived on 107th Street in Broadway, and I was helping him move, and it was he thinks I helped him move in because I was just being nice, but he had a really cute girlfriend. And we're still friends to this day. And he says, you spent a lot of time talking about your family. You talked a lot about your family, how you grew up, and your brothers, your sisters, your mom, your dad. And he said, I always thought that that's what you really wanted, was to be a dad. And, it took you a long time to get there, but you did. And I have a daughter too now, and she's fantastic. And I'm very fortunate that I finally got the right woman, and I got my family. It's what I've always wanted. So, like, I love going down to watch them play. It's really all I want to do.
Yeah. And
You know what I mean?
And
I don't want to work anymore. I like to, I just quit cigars. I was smoking cigars, and I just quit them about 2.5 weeks ago. And I like to get out of the ballpark and light a cigar and walk around the thing and go in and watch. And then when he's out in the field, it's just, I don't know. I mean, it's just what I do. But I don't smoke the cigars anymore. So there you go.
Well, it's probably,
or maybe not for a while, but we'll see how long that lasts.
So, Paul, I would have a lot of fans mad at me if I didn't bring this up, but 1987, things really changed for you in such a positive way in your career. You got that role of Harold Dyer on Knots Landing, and we talked about Craig T. Nelson, and we've talked about different people who you've been able to meet throughout your career. But what a great feeling it had to be for you to work with somebody like Kevin Dobson as closely as you did.
Well, yeah, Kevin was awesome. Kevin and I got along great. I used to make Kevin laugh. He used to come, it was a very strange thing, because I didn't know anything about Knots Landing. I came from, actually, I've been in several movies up until that time. I had done some television, but I really consider myself sort of more of in the movies than on TV, even though I did, different strokes and Hotel and, lots of shows. But when I went to work on Knots Landing, I was kind of knocked out by how professional they were. In the movies, there's a lot of pride when you do over the shoulder shots. Your camera, like when you do a reverse, they call it. So if I'm in a scene with you, Mike, right now, so we're side by side on the screen, right?
Yeah.
But in reality, they put a camera over one shoulder and they're shooting you, and I'm giving you the lines. Then they turn it around and put the camera over your shoulder and shoot me, and you give me the lines. And a lot of times, a lot of people, especially in television, they don't give you when it's not their chance, when they're not on camera, right? They're not really there for you. What I learned, because when I got on Knots Landing, they took this, like, that's an old tradition, an old Hollywood tradition. We shot on the old MGM lot. And in fact, on stage 25, there was still a little bit of the yellow brick road when I went to work. I couldn't believe it. It's like me, this kid from Somerville, Mass, like I'm on Clark Gable was, like the history, the richness and all the things that, as a kid that you see on the big screen, and suddenly I'm on the stage and there's the yellow brick road. I was like, you can't, I don't know. It's, even at that point, because, I'd now been in several movies and television and been working in Hollywood for 7-8 years at that time. And, but still I was knocked out by it. So I was a big fan myself of the history of Hollywood and old movies. And I love the old movie stars and but that's what they did. One of the things that I was so appreciative of the cast, not only Kevin, but Donna and Michelle and Joan and Divine, Bill Devane and everybody. They were so professional. They were, there's a shot of the girls. That was just from last year. They were so professional, and they, but also there was something happened, like when I went to work there. And this only happens once in a while in your career if you're lucky. Like you show up and, you know, usually if you're the outsider, even if you're coming to work on a show, they're there, they're a family, they're a unit, they've been working together for years, and you come in and you always feel like you're trying to find your footing, you know, like, you know, this is try to find their rhythm, try to get into their space so that you can fit and smoothly essay the scene that's at hand. And I will say that they were very, very, very generous with me. For some reason, they liked me. And they took me in. And like I said, Kevin and Michelle and all of them, they were great. And it was a wonderful time to work on that show. You know, I was in the movies, I was in all the right movies and Headin for Broadway. And even when I did Headin for Broadway, that was on HBO when we were shooting All the Right Moves, you know. So in a way, I was more popular than Tom at that time. The kids on the street knew me, you know what I mean? And you know, but Nosley, I had no idea the power of television. Like, I had a friend of mine tell me, "Oh, wait till the show airs, you know, it's going to be crazy," and he was right. It was like the level of fame was, you know, 20 million people watch that show every week.
Yeah.
And it was like 19 or 18 in the ratings. Okay. Think of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I used to kid James Gandolfini was a very, very close friend of mine. And when he was doing The Sopranos, I think at the peak they had 10 million. And I used to kid him and say, "Hey, 10 million. I had 20 million watching me. You know what I mean? What are you, crazy? Come on." But, you know, the difference was you know, there's two different kinds of shows, but you know.
But Paul, think about the storylines that you had. And you had the storyline where you and Mac are in Mexico, and you know, we see that Harold becomes like a lot of times when these guest stars guest on these shows, they start off with fans thinking they're good guys and then they're really bad guys. It was the opposite with you. We all thought that Harold was going to be a bad guy. He turns out being a good guy, but so many great storylines. I mean, Harold was in a lot of ways responsible for uncovering how Jill Bennett really died. I mean,
that's right.
His character did tremendous detective work, and then
I did.
Yeah.
Or he did.
Yeah.
I will tell you that I got to actually shoot somebody on national television and came back on the show. I mean, you know, usually when you kill somebody on a television show, you're going to get your demise is soon coming, or you're going to go to jail or whatever. No, I killed my uncle, and I end up like, you know, becoming a series regular. So I mean, it was a testament to a few things converging at the same time. One was I kept bringing stuff in. Like, I just didn't show up as an actor. Like, I'd get the scenes, and I'm like, for instance, that scene where we're in Mexico and I've got Kevin tied up, and I'm guarding him while Manny's trying to, you know, work out some deal, whatever he's doing. And we get into this thing, and I take the apple. I'm chewing an apple, and I take it out, and I spit it, and I throw it at him. I'll send that to you so you can actually use a piece of that scene. I don't know if you have it, but I've got it on the thing. I can send it to you. And in the script, it wasn't written that way. In the script, I was eating eggs, and I throw the thing off the table.
Yeah.
So on the morning of the shoot, I said to Kevin, "Hey, you know, I have this idea. Instead of the eggs, why don't I have an apple? And I can show him a little maniacal. I'm crazed, you know, biting the apple. I'm getting angry. I'm eating the apple." And I said, you know, and then I could take the apple and spit it at you, you know, take it out and throw it at you or do something. Kevin, this is what was really cool, was Kevin would say, "That is great. Let's try that." And we did it. And everybody, I remember it was like everybody coming down to watch us shoot that scene. That was a few days. We were there was like 6-7 pages of dialogue. It was a big to do, that scene down there. And I remember walking out after it, and David Jacobs, who was the creator of the show, saw me, and he just said, "That was wow!" Like, you know. And I got the deal. I got signed. You know, I'd done like 11 shows coming back, like to do another show. But this was, they gave me a contract, and it was after that day.
Yeah.
after that scene with Kevin. So I owe Kevin a big, that he was so generous. And working with him mostly, like when the whole Jill thing, and she was beautiful, wasn't she, Jill? She drove me kind of crazy, that girl. Anyway, so she, that was the way I was hoping it would go. Like I knew when Donna left the show, I thought my days were numbered. And they essentially, it was the beginning of the end of Harold, because that was the, conflict. The conflict was between her trying to get me away from her daughter.
Right.
You see, putting coke in my locker, trying to get me killed, trying to do this, do that. She was always trying to foil us. And they liked me enough that they actually put me with Kevin to finish off that. But I don't know. So, ended with that. I think the last show was I was leaving her to go to Miami or something.
Well, that's what I meant to bring up to you too, Paul. It kind of disappointed me. And again, I understand Donna wasn't on the show anymore, but I really felt like you and Tanya had a great chemistry. And I mean, they corrected it with your last episode, but I hated the way they had Harold call Olivia and basically like tell her he didn't care nothing about her. And
well, that's what you started the segment off by talking about. Usually what happens is they make the good guy, we think he's a good guy, and he's a bad guy. So they were trying to do that in a phone call.
Yeah.
To turn the stem, turn that back around to what you originally said. That's what they were trying to do. Oh, you see, underneath it all, he was bad all along.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that was what it was. I don't really know. I wasn't in the writer's room when they were doing that. I think they were trying to also they were trying to find an easy way to just get, to tie it into a nice, neat bow, and that's it. But yeah, they never really, I thought that was left hanging. They could have done more with that.
Because the one thing about
I don't know what happened there. I don't know. I was always trying to get Tanya to go. Tanya was a little. I don't think she liked me very much when I first, got on the show, when I was doing this stuff with her. She a lot of time because we worked. I really try to work with her quite a bit to develop stuff, to have things to do in the scenes, like what I was doing with Kevin. She had been doing this for 8-10 years. I mean, she was a little kid on the show.
Yeah.
So I think I was trying to break some habits, some habits that, maybe try to get her into. And the other thing I was always after to say, we should be out, we should be seen in public. Like we should go someplace and have the sort of steer it up. Let's get, some press going for this show, these two characters. And get some excitement going because, you could see that they have a lot of big shots on that show. I mean, you're dealing with Devane, Donna Mills, Michelle Lee, all these, they're very powerful personalities. They were stars of that show, Kevin, all of them. So I was trying to compete, like in a way, I was like the junior. We were the junior, they were the seniors, we were the juniors. And so I was always trying to get her to, and she just was not, she didn't seem to be too interested in, make believe, although we were in Hollywood. I go, it's all make believe. And come on. So I was trying to get her to, be seen, maybe smooching in a secret place and then maybe having a real affair off the set, that kind of thing. You get some sort of fire, but she was not interested. She didn't seem to think that was a viable,
But you did have great chemistry with her on the air. I mean, the one thing I really liked about that, the two of you on air together, is Harold. He could be this bad guy, and then whenever Olivia was around, you saw that he loved Olivia, and he just couldn't. There was a part of him that maybe still wanted to be a little obnoxious, but he couldn't do it because he loved Olivia so much. So
that's called acting.
Yeah, but I think that you two did a great job. I would say this, that you and you and Tanya worked very well together.
Yeah, I think we did have, it's odd. I think there was some friction in the early, like, again, it was my sort of general attitude. When I got on Knots Landing, I didn't know who they were. I didn't know any of them. I remember Kevin from Kojak, and I remember Devane from playing Kennedy, and Donna from, Play Misty for Me or whatever it was with. So I didn't really, and Michelle was in Herbie the Love Bug. You know what I mean? She was in, so I didn't realize what I was stepping into, but at the same time, I did have a little, obviously, respect and reverence for them as individual human beings and what they have accomplished in their career. But working with her, I didn't know, anything about, Tanya, and I had no clue. Didn't know what I was getting involved with at the time. The power of the television, that show, the people, the fans, which goes on. This is how we got together, Mike. Is that Diane? She runs a whole thing on Facebook. There's so many of them, but Diane's like very, very intricate, and like she's
a great person. Very helpful.
Yeah, she's Diane's done a lot of stuff. I mean, she's got the cookbook. I gave her a couple of. I got a bunch of books signed by the girls for her and everybody else, and it was she's done a lot of stuff. So like this is how it happens in life. I mean, otherwise I wouldn't be here talking to you if it wasn't for Diane. And Diane, through Facebook, that's how that happened. And so this is how it lives on. So at the time, working with Olivia, I had like a tongue-in-cheek approach, you know what I mean? I would tease her, and because I didn't know what this was. I didn't know the magnitude of how the general public felt about Knots Landing. I had no clue until I was on the show and it aired, and then I saw like, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. Like the people are into this show. They love these characters. I was taking a shower in a gym working out, and there was a pair of feet down next to my feet in the shower. And I was like, huh? I look up and there's a guy there going, do you love her? Do you love her? I got to ask you, my wife will kill me. I told her, you work out at this gym and you're here. And I got to ask, she's like, she's got to know, do you really love Olivia? I mean, this kind of like, you know what I mean? People were, and when I was doing had been in movies previous, okay, I'll give you this example. You're 50 feet big. So somebody meets you and they see you from a movie. They're a little bit more like, wow, that's the guy that's in this movie. It's big. It's bigger than life. You're giant sized up there. Television, you're in the living rooms of people.
Yeah. And
it's not so much they know you. They think you know them.
Yes. Yeah.
There's a familiarity. There's something else that happens when you're in the living room as opposed to going to the movie theater. And it's like, people would come up and they'd talk like that guy. Like he thought like, he could just come into the shower there and have a conversation with me, about the show. Like they're living it with me, or I'm living it with them. So that was the interesting part of that. And to finish off with Olivia, I thought that we actually grew to really have a really deep mutual respect for one another on that show. I mean, it didn't start off that way. It was like I was teasing her all the time. I think she wanted to get me fired at one point. But, I actually, to look back on it now, it was great. It was a great experience. And I'm very, very grateful to have had it, and I'm still I still see the girls from time to time, and I miss Kevin. Kevin directed me in a play. I had a radio show. Kevin did a couple episodes of that for me. I mean, we would go hang out once in a while, Kevin and I. I like Kevin quite a lot.
Yeah, I've never heard a person say a negative thing about Kevin. Everybody ever talked to, he was just a real.
He was a mensch. They say a mensch. They say that, and that's a Yiddish word. And Kevin was a mensch.
Yeah, it definitely was. Paul, like anything else, when you're doing what you're doing in life, you want to be somewhat recognized for it because, you want to, prove that you've made it in the business and things like that. And what a talented writer, director, producer you are because, you're the only guy I could think of that won multiple awards. I think about the audience award that you won at the Beverly Hills Film Festival.
Film Festival, yeah.
Yeah,
for like a club soda. Yes, a story I wrote.
Yeah.
when I got sober early on my sobriety, and it was about my early days in New York working at this bar called The Balcony, where Mike Cavagrati was the bartender. Jack Foley was also another bartender and a patron. And I got a job working in there. And all those characters are out of that bar, that everybody that I wrote about in that little 23-minute short, which I wrote a feature-length screenplay. We were going to shoot that, but Jimmy unfortunately passed away. And yeah, that was and so it's just a little slice of my life as a young actor working, knowing these guys. Hey, it's Lou.
Yeah.
Lou Gossett. That was that was a fantastic thing to have gotten him to be in this short. I mean, it was that, talk about a guy. He drove from way out in Malibu. He lives out way out there. He came in every morning at 4:00 in the morning. I mean, he was a trooper. What a great guy. I love Lou. Yeah, all those guys. I mean, Joe Mantegna is an old friend of mine. We did a pilot years ago. He came in to do it. Jimmy Gandolfini from The Sopranos. He showed up. Mike Rispoli. There's actually a couple of guys from Braveheart that are at the bar in one shot as it goes by. A couple of my friends from Braveheart, and many other things. But yeah, I've done a lot of different things. I've been very fortunate. It's a tough town. I've been fortunate to work with like a lot of good, talented people, and it hasn't always gone my way, but that's life, but I've been blessed with a lot of things. And like I said, my son and my family, my son, my daughter, and my wife, they're the most important thing to me. This is just a byproduct. This is what I do. It's not who I am,
Right.
So, I've written books, movies, television. I've sold screenplays. I wrote a play. Jimmy Gandolfini produced a play that I wrote about my relationship with my dad.
Yeah.
I wrote a play called Beyond the Ring, and Jimmy produced that.
If I recall, you won the Critics Award for the writing in that movie. So I mean,
Mike, you have done your research. I'm very, very impressed with you, sir. Yes, I got nominated for Best Actor, and I won Best Writer for that.
Yeah, and I mean that's gotta, like I said, listen. Some people, the way they feel about awards, they either think it's a great thing or they don't really pay attention to it. But when
Jimmy used to say, and that's Jimmy Gandolfini, I fooled him again.
Yeah, exactly.
That was his.
But when
his take on it.
When you are being honored and recognized for what you do and the work that you put in, I mean, there has to be a sense of accomplishment on your part, because it's how hard it is to succeed in this business. So when you're doing things like this and you get recognized for it, that has to be very, you have to be very proud of that.
I'll tell you a story. Have we got time for one more story?
Sure.
My friend Mark Genest, who worked for my agent back in the mid 80s, and he had a girlfriend he was breaking up with at the time, and I wanted him to be my agent, this guy, and he was then fell in love with some Vicky, his wife, been his wife now for the last 30 some odd years, 35 maybe years, maybe more. But at that time, we would get together and write songs, and we wrote these songs. And now that's for whatever reason, this is age, folks. I was starting it to tell you, connect the dots, and now I can't remember what the hell I was going to tell you. This story. It's a story. What was the story? I forget now. However, what were we talking about? Oh, about record. Yeah. So I was with Mark. There's a place on Sunset Boulevard called The Rainbow. This is where Marilyn Monroe, folks, had her first date with Joe DiMaggio.
Yeah.
And I knew Mario. Mario owned it. Mario's nephew is Joe Mantegna. Think about that, how crazy that is. The Chicago boys. Yeah. So I used to go in there. This was the first place I went when I first came to Hollywood. So at this time now, I've been in Hollywood a long time, and I've gotten to know Mario pretty well. And I go up there, and I went up for an early dinner with Mark Genest. And we went in there, and there's only two other people in there. It's Sylvester Stallone And he's the guy that he's having an early dinner with. And he goes, "Hey, Paulie," and we hug, and I introduce him to Mark. We say hello. I sit down on the other side of the restaurant. You know, it's very close, a small place. So I'm sitting in the booth. He's sitting in the middle booth. And then comes a young guy, a young man, a father with a son. You know, his son was probably 14, 15 years old. They sit in the next booth. They're looking right at Sylvester Stallone. Okay.
Yeah.
When I got up to leave the restaurant, I went back by Sly's table and I said, "Hey, good to see you, Sly." And he said, "Hey, probably don't be a stranger, you know, blah, blah, blah." We shoot the shit there for a second. And we go out to get the car, give the valet my ticket, and I'm waiting for my car. Out comes the father and this young kid. And the father says to me, you know, this, I don't mean to bother you. I said, you know, I'm sorry to do this, but my son is a huge fan of All the Right Moves and of your character in particular, because he fumbled the ball in his last, you know, whatever. He fumbled the ball and he was very, you know, distraught. And so he had something to identify with, you know, somebody to identify. And that happened to be my character. And he said, "Would you mind signing an autograph for him?" So I said, "Absolutely." I said, "Where is he?" He said, "Go, he's in the," I said, "Go get him, bring him out." So I go, I give him a hug. I said, "Hey," and I wrote, you know, I signed a thing saying, "From one fumbler to another, don't quit. Don't quit, baby." You know, and Paul Carafotes. I gave it to him. And, you know, at that time of my life, you know, signing autographs was a pretty, you know, like this happens, right? But we get in the car and my friend Mark goes, "That was just amazing." I go, "What?" He goes, "Well, Sylvester Stallone is sitting in that restaurant, and this kid wants your autograph."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, he just identified, you know, like," he goes, "No, no, 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 no. It's just too much." He goes, "It's too much for me. Like, there's 6 people in the restaurant. One of them is Sylvester Stallone. Another one is Paul Carafotes, and this kid wants your autograph." So that made me feel good. That's, you know, that was nice.
Yeah, that is
it's a cool little story, but you know, that's you know,
that is
part of it's part of it, you know. I mean, you know, I have friends of mine that I'd be like, I was telling you about. I wrote this character Mike in that Joe Mantegna played in Club Soda. And I remember being at the Hard Rock having lunch with him, and people kept coming up to the table and asking for autographs. "Can I take a picture?" And I just, you know, whatever, sure, here's that guy. And after a few minutes, Mike threw he banged the table and said, "Leave him alone!" Like he got all like trying to protect me. And I said, "Hey, this is part of the job." You know, when you want to be an actor, you want to get famous. You know, it's a little weird to work the other way. You know what I mean? This is part of the job. I mean, people are going to recognize you. Yeah, sometimes it gets a little much, you know. I mean, I know Sean Penn used to say that, you know, when he started getting bothered while he was trying to go number 2 in a public restroom, he said that's when it, you know, started this, it's a little over the top. And I have to agree with that. I mean, people should be respectful, but I at that time, I you know, that's part, it was fun. I had a lot of fun. So,
right. Well, Paul,
I'm very, very, like I said, I'm very, you know, I've got a heart full of gratitude for what I've gotten to be able to receive or get my portion in life, whatever this was, you know.
Right.
I used to kid my mother. She used to say, "Oh God, you're so much better than this one or that one. Why can't?" And I said, Mom, when you're looking in the mirror, whose mother's looking back at you? Brad Pitt's mom? I mean, you know, come on. I mean, you know, like it's, you know, Heading for Broadway spoiled my family, I think, because, you know, I starred in that movie. It was the first time out of the box. They had no idea. And that was such a thrill. It was so, you could never get that back. I could never do anything that could supersede that first movie that you're starring in, that they see, that their brother, their son went off to New York and then comes back and we got a limousine to this theater. There's pictures out there. No, this can't be happening. That's you know, that's something. So like, you know, like it's unfortunate because, you know, I don't know how the Beatles did it, you know, and I'm not comparing myself to them, certainly, but I love the Beatles, and like each album, they just sort of always outdid, you know, themselves, you know, and then eventually you get to like, you know, 8 years, 13 albums, you know, 20 number ones. I mean, you know, 3 hit movie, this, it goes on and on, on and on and on. I mean, where do you go?
Yeah.
How far can you go? You know, how do you top what you did? Shea Stadium. You know, you went from a club, now you're playing Shea Stadium. What's after that? You're going to play on Mars? Where are you
Right.
going? You know, so like, you know, in my little career, you know, it's like you do this, you do that, and you just keep going. Like I said, I've been fortunate,
Well,
so
Paul,
I'm happy.
I really do appreciate you giving me some time today, and it was a real honor for me to get to interview you. I've been a big fan forever.
Ah, thanks a lot, Mike.
I really,
And we got to thank Diane. Diane set this all up.
yeah,
So
she was wonderful, but I really applaud what you've done in your career. You're a remarkable person. I really do admire you, and I figured
no, thank you.
I figure it'd be fitting for you to just wrap this up. And anything you want to say to the fans before we go ahead.
Well, I just like to say thank you so much, you know, for letting me be able to entertain you. If you haven't seen any of these movies, like for instance, Headin for Broadway, a great little independent movie made in 1979, came out in 1980. You can see it on YouTube. Of course, there's All the Right Moves. There's the Knots Landing gang that I love. That they're still in my life. The people, the fans. I had, you know, we could spend 2 hours just talking about the crazy stories that happened during that. And I really appreciate all the stuff that you guys have been letting me be able to do. And if you want to see the books, you know, you can go to charliebubbles.com. We have a nonprofit. You can make a little donation, or you could buy a book, and all the proceeds go to getting books, free books, kids everywhere. You know, we're on Charlie Bubbles. You know, you can go to YouTube at Charlie Bubbles, subscribe, like, look at the videos we got up there. You can go to Facebook, Charlie Bubbles Storybooks, and Facebook, and I believe Instagram is at Charlie Bubbles Books. So I'd love to see any of you that want to come and drop us a DM me, as they say. I guess that's the cool way of saying, you know, you can get a message to me like Mike did. And, you know, if you, you know, we actually go too. Charlie comes with me a lot of places, and we go sign books, and we go read to the kids, and we play our Charlie Bubbles music. And we'd love for you to, if you go to the charliebubbles.com, you can actually go there and make suggestions. If you have some hospital or some kids or preschool or elementary school that want books, just let me know, and we'll see if we can get you the books. We'd love to. So that's all I got to say. Thanks for your time, your love, and let me be able to entertain you guys for whatever that is, whatever I've been able to do. I appreciate that you've let me do it. Thanks so
Well,
much.
thank you again, Paul. We really appreciate it, and just keep doing what you're doing, my friend. Thanks again.
Oh, Mindhunter, guys. You can watch season 2, 1 and 3, and also Damages. I had 6 episodes on that.
Yeah.
All on Netflix. You can check it all out. Don't forget.
Sounds good. Well, thank you again, Paul. We really appreciate it. For In the Spotlight, I'm Mike Kenichi saying good night, everyone.